Good evening, and welcome, dear friends. Some new friends as well, so welcome. Glad you're joining us for the ride, and looking forward to having a wonderful evening and 6 weeks together, discovering nurturing relationships. So number one, in the back, make sure you get a book. We're starting to get out of books. Also good problems. Not good over here. Okay. Yeah, I have 40 books. So if we run out of all the books, we know we have more than 40 people actually came to get a book. Okay, but in any case, nurturing relationships. So make sure you get a book. There's also some snacks in the back. There's coffee, water, and tea in the hallway. So make sure you're comfortable. Make yourselves at home. Because you can ask Steve over here. Steve knows we're not leaving until about midnight earliest. Maybe 1, 2. We got we have a whole big book over here to cover. What do you think? Okay. You ready?
I'm in.
This time you're in. Okay. Dear friends, this course, a little bit of housekeeping. All right? A few important notes. Number one, we have the class running for 6 weeks. Every week, I'll get that in a second. Let's get to Thanksgiving weekend in a moment. But the class happens at 11 a.m. right here in the exact same place, same room. 11 a.m. to 12:30 and evening 7:30 to 9. If you ever want, feel free to alternate if it's ever better for you to come in the morning or come to both, whatever you would like. Get your money's worth. Okay, you could do that. Next point. This course is accredited for medical and mental health professionals. If you registered for CMEs, number one, you have to make sure every single week, too, digitally, which means I'm going to be sending out an email every single week that has a little recap, has the link to the recording. All these classes are being recorded. It's like that we could always access them for posterity. And in there is going to be a link that if you register for CME, you're going to have to sign in. It's like that we could report you properly. Hey, how's it going? Don't worry. Take a chair over here, and you'll be the standing room only. No, don't worry. Pull over a chair. You'll be tier 2. You'll be tier 2 over there. Okay.
Elijah.
There you go. Yeah, there you go. Just get yourself comfortable. And again, you can get yourself a book also. Okay. There's books over there. Okay, and some snacks. All right, so that's about the accreditation. Okay, in 2 weeks is going to be the weekend of Thanksgiving. Let's take a vote. Wednesday, day before Thanksgiving, Erev Thanksgiving. Should we do class? We're going to do this by vote. Who would rather skip that week? Okay, pretty strong, which is very interesting. The morning class was barely anybody wanted to skip. The evening class seems like more or less everybody wants to skip. So that means that the week, right now the course is supposed to go through December 18th. If we push it off, that means we're either going to December 25th or possibly, which is what we've been doing in the past, we do the last class on Sunday. We do a Sunday morning breakfast. You remember that, right?
So the Sunday before the 18th?
No, so it'll be the 18th if we push it off. If we don't push it off, then the Sunday before the 18th is our final class. If we do the Sunday thing. We do the Sunday thing, Daniel? We do something. There you go. That was nice. It's always a nice thing. We bring both classes together. We do a grand finale together. Okay. If not, then it'll be the Sunday after the 18th, between the 25th. You can't do either of them? Okay, we got to see. But also, we would still offer, we would make sure that it works. There you go. Look at this.
Oh, no.
Come on in. Come on in over here. All right. But as we begin, dear friends, I want to first of all thank and dedicate this course. I want to thank Lauren and Randy Lesson, who are sponsoring this course. Thank you. There you go. Sponsoring this course in loving memory of their parents, Mr. Dennis Dems and Dr. Jerry and Joanne Lesson, and Lauren's brother, Mr. Ryan Dems. And this is beautiful. We have, between the two classes, I think close to 50 people who are going to be joining this course, learning for 6 weeks. And God willing, it's going to be unbelievable stuff over here. So, on that note, dear friends, let us jump in. You ready? Crack open those books. Let's get those plastics off, and here we go. There was three Jewish women in Boca. You'll find out in a minute. What do you want me to say? A rabbi and a priest and a... Okay. Three Jewish women, they get together weekly in the coffee shop in Boca. All right. The first lady comes in, gets her coffee, sits down with a big oi. The second lady comes, sits down with a big oi. The third one says, I thought we already decided we're not going to be speaking about our children today. Okay. Not the best. Okay, it's okay. All right. Oi, there you go. Dear friends, we're here to talk about relationships, nurturing relationships. Today's topic is the art of empathy. We're going to get to that much later. But it's a good topic. But you know what's interesting? What's a rabbi talking about relationships? You know, if you're going to give me a course that's all about, I don't know, how to build a sukkah. Okay, understand. You go to a rabbi to help you understand how to go build a sukkah. I get that. How to make a seder, that's for a rabbi to do. Relationships, what does that have to do? But as we're going to see, relationships is a very big thing in Judaism. Not just as a big thing in Judaism, there's a lot to say about it, but Judaism sees the idea of us as humans being in relationships, having connections with other human beings in a whole different way than I think conventional wisdom sees it. So this is a massive idea in Judaism. I just want to highlight to you two quick ideas, two quick little values that I think will set the tone for what we're doing over here, and we'll start seeing what Judaism says about relationships. Number one, takes all the way to the beginning. Genesis. God makes humanity with one human, Adam. One of the very first things that God says about Adam is this. I'm going to pick on you. The way we do it, for those of you who are new here, like Jeff Dell, we go around the room. I'm not going to teach. No. There's a lot of texts. We go around, and if you would like, everybody gets a chance to read a text. So I'm going to honor you with text number 1. In your books, page 3. You got to move fast over here. We're running out of time. Okay. Text 1, page 3. Should I get back to you, Jeff?
No, I'm good. I'm good.
Okay.
You didn't tell me how to read it in Hebrew, did you?
Not Hebrew, just English. But by the way, if you don't want to read, don't worry about it. We'll pass it along.
I always wanted to learn how to read. Page 1.
Page 3.
Page 3.
Page 3, there we go.
Great start.
All right. No to loneliness. God said, it is not good for the human to be alone. I shall make for him a corresponding counterpart.
There you have it. There you have it. The very first thing that the Creator has to say about a human being is, it's not good for the person, for the human to be alone. Okay, now the direct context of this verse is about marriage. Giving Adam the soulmate, Eve. Okay, but the commentaries in the Torah see this as a larger statement about the human condition. It's not a good thing, says our Creator. It's one of the very first things he says about a human, which is a very significant thing. Right? This isn't some verse buried somewhere in Scripture. This is front and center, right there at the beginning. God makes the human and says it's not good for the human to be alone. So this is the first thing we know. And what I was going to tell you is the commentaries say, this is not just about marriage. All relationships are very important for the human because it's not good for a person to be alone. This is the first value. We see, the very first thing the Torah is telling us about humanity is that it's not good for that human to be alone. Okay. That's quick point number 1. Quick point number 2, which I think is a fundamental quick opener for what is the attitude that we're going to be going with into this course that Judaism teaches us, is text number 2. Heidi, page 4.
You want me to read it?
If you're up to it.
Life is interlaced with relationships.
No.
Oh, page 4. Okay.
Page 4, text 2.
Yoshua ben Hur, of course I get the woman name, would say, appoint a teacher for yourself, acquire a friend for yourself, and judge all people favorably.
Okay, there's three ideas over here. Let's not go into all of them, but that middle idea that Rabbi Yoshua ben Prachia says, acquire a friend for yourself. It's a bit weird way to say things, no? Make a friend. I don't know. Acquire a friend. What does that mean to mean? You go and acquire stuff. I don't know. A friend. What does that mean? It's a very weird way to say go and make friends. What our sages are telling us is we can't have a passive attitude towards our relationships, towards our friendships. You know the attitude has to be about our friends? Acquire a friend. Meaning, think about anything you acquire. You want to get a loaf of bread. So what do? You don't say, I don't know. Either I do have a loaf of bread or I don't have a loaf of bread. How do you get yourself a loaf of bread? Get yourself off the couch, go in the car, go to the store, take out money from your pocket, go get it. Right? What is the attitude that Torah teaches us about the relationships in our life? It's not something we just let happen. Either it does happen or it doesn't happen. It's like the weather. Yeah, either it's good weather or it's bad weather. Either I am social, I'm not so social. Judaism says our relationships are vital. That's point number 2 I want to share with you right away. Okay, Judaism believes relationships don't happen to us. We make them happen. That's what it means. Acquire for yourself a friend. So let's just put these two values together we just learned quickly. Number 1, it's a very bad thing for us to be alone. We have to work on living with other people. We have to be living with other fellow humans in our lives. And that is something that we need to be proactive about. We don't sit on the couch and say, I don't know, what should I do? We make it happen. This is the premise of this course. This course, somebody actually emailed me. They said, I'm not interested in this course. I have no problems in my relationships. Okay. First of all, okay, that's a very interesting take. I'm done. I've hit the max of all my relationships. But also, is that the premise of this course? Are we coming to problem solve here? This course is not a problem solving. I've got an issue in my marriage. I got to take a course. This course is simply part of investing in this value that the Torah teaches us. We need to work on not being alone. We need to invest in our relationships. Now, alone doesn't have to mean you live alone. It means even all of us have relationships. All of us have people in our lives. We live in Metro Detroit. We don't live in Wyoming. But anybody here from Wyoming? I don't mean to offend anybody. Okay. But the idea is sometimes you could even know people, but still you're a little bit alone. And I think the more we learn in this course, you'll see that. We have to work on being people who live with other people. We have other people in our lives. And Judaism sees this as very, very important. And that's what we're doing here in this course. I'll share with you something interesting. I don't have a slide for this. Does anybody know what the Hebrew word for life is? Life. How do you say life in Hebrew? Chayim. Chayim. Very good. Now, for those of you who are a little bit more familiar with Hebrew, Chayim is the way you say life in the plural. Which in general, if you add the im sound to most Hebrew words, that means that's the way to make it plural. Right, there's Chay and there's Chayim. Right? Chay means life. Chayim means not life, but probably more lives. But how do we speak about one person's life in Hebrew? We don't use a singular. We don't refer to human life as Chay. We use the word Chayim, the plural, which is pretty weird. How's your lives doing? What? Right? that's not proper grammar. But in Hebrew, that's what we do. We refer to life in the plural. So it's a famous question. What's up with that? The answer is pretty obvious once you realize it. Judaism believes that what's life? Life is not life if it's in the singular. A life is when we are living that life with many others. That's life. A single life is not life. That's not life. Life is chayim. Life is a life where we have people in our lives. And this is big idea. So relationships is not just something which is a commodity, a bonus, a luxury. Either we do have it or we don't have it, or somebody else is better at it, I'm not so good at it. Relationships is something which is absolutely vital for us as people, as Jews, to invest in. The good news is you're in the right place. Okay, we're doing it. Let's do it. So dear friends, this is what we're going to be doing in this course. Because Judaism believes so much in the importance of relationships, Judaism also gives us the teachings to teach us the art of being human, of being social, of being in relationships. And by the way, I don't mean relationships as in only marriage. I think in the English language, relationships usually, right, I'm in a relationship with somebody. That doesn't mean you go out once a week for coffee, right? Usually it means on a more deeper level, like marriage or a romantic relationship. But for this course, this is all relationships on every single level. What we're going to be looking at is, number one, what are the big attitudes? You go get tips. Do this, don't do that, right? What are the books? How to win over friends, how to influence. What's the famous title of the book, right?
How to win friends and influence people.
How to win friends. Yeah, hey, so you want to
Influence others?
and influence others. You want to win over people? You know, if you're looking for gimmicks, that's not what we're going to be doing over here. We're looking for the big truths. Let's understand who we are. Let's understand our role in the life that we live together with other people. But of course, we're also going to be looking at some specific pieces of advice. So we're going to be doing both of those together. Okay, dear friends, before we really get into the meat and potatoes of today's class, I want to just introduce this to you. Maimonides, actually, the great sage Maimonides, he created this model of 4 layers of relationships in human life. Psychology today, there's different models of how to do it. Psychology today also uses a similar but a little bit of a different model than Maimonides. Take a look on page 7. Circles of support. These are the 4 bubbles, the 4 canopies of relationships in our life. And we're going to be talking about all these. Everything we say in this course applies across the board in all of our relationships. At the bottom, we have what's called the circles of intimacy. These are the people who we love most, dearest, we spend the most time with, and we experience each other in the most intimate settings. Of course, that's our immediate family. Then we have the circle of friendship. Who are our friends? We're honest with, we feel for each other. We share our lives with our friends. The third bubble is the circle of participation. Okay, these are people who were, I don't know if we'll call them friends, but we are acquaintances. We're friendly. We go golfing together. We see each other in shul. I don't know. We're good acquaintances. Participation. And the final circle is a circle of exchange. These are the people who we are interacting with. It's just part of our life. My doctor. Right? Okay, some people are real good friends with the doctor. Right? Most people, circle of exchange. I want to ask of you, each of you, to take a moment, and let's try to personalize what we're going to be learning throughout this course. And if you're brave enough, even write it down. But I want to try to identify a specific person in your life. Ideally, one for each of these 4 categories, but let's at least do 2 or 3. The intimacy and friendship, and ideally even participation. And it can be somebody simply who you happen to know, you interact with them either on a very intimate level, or you're friends, or simply friends of participation. We hang out a little bit every now and then. We know each other. We're friendly. And I want to identify a specific person for each of these. And then as we go through this course, especially today's class, it will make it easier for us to apply what we're learning to our personal lives, because we actually have something in mind. It can maybe be somebody who you had a fallout with, or not, or nothing. It doesn't have to be bad news. Just, all right, so I want to give you all a minute. Let's think about that. Choose somebody, maybe even write it down. All right. Talking about loneliness, some of those cups in the back look kind of lonely. If anybody would like, it's very healthy, by the way. No carbs, no sugars. Take care of yourself. It's vegetables with hummus.
Do you provide those?
They just landed. I don't know. Okay. How are we doing? We're doing okay? Let's hit it. Dear friends, let's jump into the world of relationships in Judaism. Today, I don't want to talk about empathy. I know the class is titled Empathy. We're going to talk about empathy in another half hour, 40 minutes. First, I want to give you a big idea. Judaism sees relationships in a whole different way that the world sees relationships. And I want to, let's explore that together. There's a story in the Talmud. By the way, shameless plug, your books should have a bookmark, which is Is it actually a book? Is it there to serve as a bookmark, or is it there to serve as an advertisement? I don't know. But this is sharing with you what our next course is going to be. Our winter course, starting in either late January or early February. I think early February. It's called Decoding the Talmud. An unbelievable course, a deep dive into the world of the Talmud. Whether you've studied the Talmud before, never have looked at it before, it's the most important text of the Jewish people. We're going to be really jumping into the world of the Talmud next course. Okay, but we can't jump the gun. The Talmud shares a story of a man, wasn't Jewish, a non-Jew, who was thinking about converting to Judaism. This is in the land of Israel, the ancient land of Israel. So he goes to a local yeshiva, a study hall. He goes to the closest study hall. It happens to be the academy of the great sage Shammai. That was his name, Shammai. And this convert asks for the rabbi, goes over to the desk of Rabbi Shammai and says, Rabbi, I'm thinking about converting. Can you please teach me the whole Torah while I stand on one foot? Which means, give me the 20-second version of it. Shammai throws him out of the building. What do you think, this is a joke? Teach me the whole Torah. If you want to convert, come, take yourself seriously, study. What, you think it's a mock? You make a mockery out of me? Teach the whole Torah to 20 seconds. Get out of here. All right. Kicks him out. Shammai in general was a rough guy. You didn't mess with Shammai. All right, that was his reputation. Okay. This guy didn't give up. He goes to the next yeshiva, the next study hall. And this is the academy of Hillel. Of Hillel Day School, great fame. Okay. Named after him. Okay. No schools are named after Shammai, no? Okay, maybe we'll see why. He goes to Hillel. Does the same thing. Rabbi Hillel, teach me the whole Torah while I stand on one foot. Hillel, instead of kicking him out, says, you know, I'll do it. This is what Hillel tells him. Text 3a, page 8. Want to do it?
Sure.
Let's do it. Text 3a.
Hillel told him, whatever you find hateful when done to you, you do not do to your fellow. This is all the Torah in its entirety. The rest is commentary. Go study the rest.
Anybody ever heard of this before? This is it. The whole Torah, that's it. Even less than 20 seconds. Don't do unto another what you don't want done to yourself. If you hate it, don't do it to anybody else. And then he says, categorically, this is all the Torah in its entirety. The rest is only the commentary. Now you could go and learn. Now you know it all. Isn't it such a beautiful statement? And by the way, it's pretty good relationship advice, right? It's not bad. I think we would be in a great shape with all of our relationships if we would never ever treat another person the way we wouldn't want to be treated. Okay, that's an amazing person. And I think this statement is part of what made Hillel world famous. No schools are named after Shammai today, but Hillel's got college campus organizations and schools. It's a pretty cool line. It's a very, very famous line. Okay, but I want to ask you a question. Does this line actually make sense? Meaning, does this hold water logically, this statement? Don't do unto another what you don't want done to yourself. Does that really capture the whole Judaism?
No.
You say no, why not?
There's other rules and laws and things like that within the Torah.
Right, there's so much going on in our religion. Put up a mezuzah is a commentary of don't do unto another what you don't want done to yourself. Really? Explain that logic to me. Lighting Shabbat candles is don't do unto another what you don't want done to yourself. I'm not seeing the connection over here. Eat matzah on Passover, don't do to another what you don't want done to yourself. Something's not adding up over here. Now, Hillel is a big sage. He's a smart guy. He's not throwing around just cheap statements. If he said this, it has to make sense. But it really doesn't add up. Now, there are a lot of mitzvahs in the Torah, which we call interpersonal mitzvahs. Don't steal. Okay, a mitzvah which is interpersonal, like don't steal, don't kidnap. What else is there? You know, all the business laws, laws of honesty. Okay, all those things, that I could get. All those laws you could say are a commentary of don't do unto another way you don't want done to yourself. You don't want somebody to rob you, so you don't rob somebody else as a mitzvah. But there are 613 commandments in the Torah. How many of them are interpersonal? 100, 200? Not even half. So what's Hillel saying over here? Hillel's saying categorically, this is the whole Torah. Everything else is commentary. What's going on over here? Now, for generations, the commentaries and the Talmud struggle with the statement from Hillel. How do you make sense of it? It really is as beautiful as the statement is, it is also a really, really hard nut to crack. Just simply, what's the logic of a statement? I'll give you the answer tonight. But what you see over here is, before we jump into this, what you see is Hillel understood something about relationships that is, I think, counterintuitive. Hillel saw in the idea, the way we interact with another human being, that touches the very core of all of Judaism. So there's something very, very deep going on over here. Hillel saw relationships much deeper than I think we would typically see what it means to relate to another human being. And for that, the only way to understand this is if we explore relationships from the perspective of Jewish spirituality. Jewish spiritual psychology. Call it Kabbalah if you would like. Okay. Let's really understand who we are as human beings. Let's understand what's really going on inside of us. You ready? Here's the big idea. In your books, text 4. Let's look at text 4. Remind me your name again.
I'm Amy.
Amy. Okay. Text 4. Let's read text 4. You up to reading?
Don't have to read 3D.
No, we don't do all the texts. I want to get you guys out of here on time.
Okay.
Text 4, page 12. There's so much to learn in these books, and that's homework, exactly. He knows. Okay, so Amy, text 4. This is from King Solomon's wisdom in Ecclesiastes.
Sure. How many understand that the spirit of the human ascends on high, while the spirit of the beast descends to the earth?
They say the wisest man to ever live, King Solomon. That's what he says. Okay. What's the basic idea of this verse? This verse, King Solomon is saying, there's a lot of people who think that a human being is nothing more than just a more sophisticated animal or a complex primate. Right, what's the difference between us and a chimpanzee? I don't know, we're just a little bit more developed, drop more developed. Which means we're on the same chain as the rest of the animal life. Okay, we evolved a bit more. King Solomon's saying no. You have to understand that there's a key fundamental difference between the humans and animals. The spirit of the beast goes down, descends to the earth. Spirit of the human ascends on high. This is the basic idea of what he's saying. We are fundamentally different. We're not just a more sophisticated animal. Okay. But Jewish spirituality, Kabbalah, comes and says, no, there's something much deeper happening here in this verse. King Solomon is saying that actually these two spirits live inside of a human being. Every human being is made up of two spirits. There's something called the spirit of the human. There's something called the spirit of the beast. And every person has these two spirits inside of them. Every single person has these two drives, these two consciousnesses. We have one drive, the spirit of the beast, that's pulling us down. And we have the spirit of the human that's pulling us up. The official titles for these two forces within us is godly soul and the natural animal soul. We all have a godly soul. We all have a natural animal soul. Okay. Now I want to talk to you a little bit about these two souls. Let's try to understand them. They're both inside of us. We have a soul that's called a natural animal soul. Now, it's not called animal soul because it's the soul of an animal. No. It's a human soul. But it's a soul which is animalistic. What does that mean? What is the basic drive of every single animal? Food? Survival. What else? Survival. What else?
Hunting.
Reproduction. Procreation. What was that? Can animals want to connect? What's that? Animals, the basic law of nature, the basic law of reality, every single natural element has this in every single fiber of its being, is I need to exist. I need to fight for my existence, and I'm looking to exist. How do I exist? I need to go eat. I'll procreate. I'll defend myself. What's a horse's life about? A horse. What's a horse doing the whole day? A whole day, what's it doing? What's it thinking about?
Food.
Not always food, but nonstop. It's about me. Me, myself, and I. I'm hungry, let's go eat. I'm tired, let's go to sleep. I'm thirsty, let's go drink. I'm bored, let's roll in the sand. I'm itching, I'll go scratch my back. I'm in the mood of procreating, let's go find the female. It's just, the whole day, it's focused in itself. I'm looking to exist. That's it. It's a basic law of nature. It's all about me. Not in a negative way, not in a narcissistic way, not in a, it's the basic thing. Trees in the wild are fighting for sunlight. I just want to survive. I'm looking out for myself. It's a basic law of nature. We all have that. It's called a natural soul. It's very natural. A baby is born, they have a natural animal soul. They're hungry, they cry. They're uncomfortable, they cry. They're just thinking about, it's nothing personal, just looking out for myself. That's what it is. It's very, very, very self-centered in the sense that all it knows is myself. That's the only thing this drive is in tune to. I'm in tune to myself. I feel something, that's what I do. I like something, I do it. I don't like something, I don't do it. Something gives me pleasure, I like it. That's the animal soul. The animal soul brings us down naturally, meaning not down in a negative way, just it pulls us inward. It pulls us all the way inward. Now, by the way, you'll say animals want connections. There's herd animals. Let me ask you a question. So we'll get to connections soon, actually. Okay, we'll get there. Hold the thought. The godly soul is a holy, spiritual, altruistic drive, which is the total opposite of the natural animal soul. The godly soul is not focused inward. It's not busy thinking, what do I like, what do I want, what am I in the mood of? It's focused outward. It's in tune to purpose, to its mission. And it's a lot more naturally curious. It's the force that is pulling us up, to go beyond ourselves, to do something, even if it's not self-serving. That's the godly soul. One soul's pulling us down, one soul pulling us up. As you could imagine, one body, two souls. They getting along? What do you say?
Sure.
These two souls getting along?
No.
What do you say? You think they're getting along? Inside of you, they're getting along? No.
It's a little bit of a push-pull.
These two souls don't get along. Why not? They're both going in different directions. Let's read text 5. Steve, we're up to you. Page 13.
Next slide. Imagine two kings locked in battle, each desperate to gain control over the same city, rule its inhabitants according to his will, and ensure that they obey his every decree. That same battle rages within each of us, between our two souls. Only godly soul and its rival, the animalistic soul, wage war over our bodies and all its limbs.
There you go. There's a conflict that's living inside of us. And if you ever feel torn, this is what's happening. Sometimes what's happening, you're just in the mood of being selfish. You're not in the mood of giving of yourself. You're not interested in living for a higher purpose. You're just interested in your own convenience, and that's it. But then sometimes when we go beyond ourselves and we'll connect to something beyond ourselves and altruistic, it feels good. It feels wholesome. So who's the real me? Why do sometimes I feel this way, sometimes I feel that way? And the truth is because there's two truths inside of us. We both have these two souls. Each one's pulling us in a different direction. So there you have it. Each of these two souls are inside of us and pulling us in different directions. And this is who we are. This is life as a human being. Life as a person means that we are constantly going back and forth. We have two drives inside of us. And this is what makes our lives a little bit more complex than lives of animals. Which is true. We're a lot more complex, right? We're a lot more sophisticated. We've got real problems going on inside of us. I'm not sure who I am. I'm moody. This is what it is. We got two souls pulling us in different directions. Let me ask you a question. Between these two souls, which one takes a stronger hold on your consciousness? The animal soul or the godly soul? Meaning day-to-day life, minute-to-minute life. Which soul is or in other words, What's the human's default setting?
Survive.
Out of the box, before you change any of the settings, right?
Animal.
Animal? Anybody disagree with that? Let's be real. It's maybe not the most comfortable thing to face, but we are naturally, right, animal soul. That's who we are. We wake up in the morning. Which soul are we feeling? Feeling animal soul. Do I feel tired? Am I awake? Am I hungry? Am I this? Am I in a good mood? Am I in a bad mood? It's all about, that we're just thinking about it. That we, by nature, operate on a animal soul natural wavelength. We have a godly soul. But to bring out the godly soul and to allow the voice of the godly soul to emerge takes a lot more conscious effort. But the default soul that we are is the animal soul. Okay. Now let me ask you a little question. Because we have these two souls. Okay, you saw that little jiggle over there? There you go. See? So that soul. Now, whoever made these graphics, he looks like a bit mean. The animal soul is not it's not bad. It's not a negative thing. It's not a very good imagery. Animal soul is not bad. It's not an evil force. It's not looking to make trouble. It's nothing personal. I'm just looking to survive. That's it. That's the animal soul. It's pretty neutral. I'm just very much focused on myself. You want to make money? Good for you. Nothing to do with me. If you get in the way of my money, then we got beef. Right? But I don't care about you. I'm good. I'm just taking care of myself. Okay. So we have two souls. Let's now come back to relationships. How do these two souls operate in relationships? Is there a difference? Are both of these souls capable of relationships? Let's start with the animal soul. The default human. Could the animal soul be in a relationship with somebody?
Yes.
Yeah. Could it love somebody? Could it love somebody passionately and deeply? Yeah? What do you say? For sure. What do you say, Lisa?
Yeah, so what do you think?
You're going to pick on her too? Yeah.
No, so what I was going to bring out is that in the courses you've given before, there was one specific course you had, other people here have probably taken it, is that in that course of the soul, you were discussing how, that's why I asked you one time, how people become evil and bad.
Mm-hmm.
Because they have a godly soul and they have an evil soul.
It's not, so the animal soul is not evil. It could get a bit evil.
I know, but that's what I mean, is what is the difference here? I mean, talk about
The animal soul is not evil. The animal soul is very, very self-centered. The self-centered animal soul, could it be in a relation with another human being?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Coexist.
Not just coexist. It could have friends. It could have friends. It could even be in full-blown relationships. It could even be emotional, love. But there's a very big caveat. There's a very big caveat to the relationships of the animal soul. Which is the animal soul could relate to other people, but it ultimately is all about itself.
Yeah, what can you do for me?
What could you do for me? No politics. I have two rules. In Chabad, there's no politics and no religion. All right, okay. I'll cheat a little bit on the second one. Okay. The animal soul could be in relationships with people. But let's be real about it. It's not about the other one. It's about me. In other words. Now, I don't mean this in a narcissistic way. I don't mean like, oh, let's go find the nastiest person. You only care about yourself. We're all like this. Let me give you an example. You call up your friend. You want to go out for dinner? Let's go out and eat sushi tonight. You're in the mood? Yeah, perfect. We're going out for dinner. I love going out for sushi with you. Why going out for sushi? Do you care to give your friend the taste of sushi? You want her to really experience a good night of having sushi? Is that what you're going for? I care about you, I love you, I want you to have sushi, and I want to bring you out to sushi. Is that what's happening here? It's a little bit sobering, and I know it's uncomfortable to dissect this way, but just hear me out for a second. First of all, maybe. But how does the animal soul operate? And tell me if this sounds familiar. You want to eat sushi. You like sushi. Now, it happens to be eating sushi by yourself. Not as fun. So I'm going to ask a friend to come with me. It's like that we can eat sushi across from each other. It's like that my eating sushi is going to be a heightened, amazing experience because you're with me. Do you feel good that your friend's eating sushi? Like, oh, I feel so good for you. That must taste so good. I'm enjoying your pleasure. Now, I'm not saying you can't have that relationship, but let's just be real. A lot of human relationships, animal soul relationships, ultimately are just all about itself. It's a relationship, but it's a relationship which is ultimately serving myself. What do I get out of it? It's transactional. Let's talk about animals. Could animals be in relationships? Ants are in relationships. They live in a colony. Let me ask you a question. Does any one ant really connect with any other ant? Oh, we're loyal. We're in the same colony. We're friends. I care for you. I'm looking out for you. What are you talking about? I'm living me. For me to live, I need a colony. So you're here. It's like that I could exist. I'm not connecting. I'm not in a relationship with you. One animal mates with another animal. Are they in relationships? They're romantic? No, I have a need. You could help me with my need? Good, done. It's not about you. It's about what you could do for me. That is nature. That's the animal soul. The animal soul is inherently handicapped from ever getting past this level of relationship. We call them contingent relationships or dependent relationships. When an animal soul is in a relationship, you can be a very good friend. We've been friends for 10 years. But why do I like you? I like you because you make me feel good. I like you because I don't know what. You give me some benefit, whatever it is. What's going to happen if all of a sudden the benefit stops coming? Whatever that benefit is, I'm not in the mood of being friends with you anymore. Bad return on investment. Just not worth it anymore. Meaning, I'm not a friend because of you. I'm not looking out for you. I'm looking out for myself. You served me good for a few years. I have no reason to use you anymore. Like, you know what I'm saying? I don't need you in my life anymore. Now, again, I don't mean this, I know it can sound really narcissistic what I'm saying. I don't mean this in a narcissistic way. I mean, this is very human. Even if we don't think this and say this and in a very brute way, this is human. This is very human. Let's be real about this. We're all humans. We all have an animal soul, and the animal soul is busy operating on this type of relationships. Or in other words, and I know this is a little bit hard to hear, but the animal soul is never really in a relationship with other people. It's only in a relationship with itself. Oh, you help me in my relationship with myself. Welcome in. It's you giving me a service for myself. It's never about you. It's ultimately always coming back to me. That's how the animal soul thinks. Here you go. The animal soul only thinks about, it's not in a bad way. It's just how it operates. You want me to think about somebody else? Like, it's just, you're speaking Chinese to me. This is human. We're buried in ourselves. We feel our consciousness, and a whole day we're operating on that level. We're going to get to the godly soul. The godly soul is the only one who could actually, truly connect, transcend itself. But let's get to that in a moment. I want to show you a little video. Who can I bother over here? Can I bother you, Lauren? Or Randy, you could do it. Let's close the lights right behind you. I want to show you a little video over here.
There is a Jewish folktale that illustrates how vague the meaning of the word love can be, and also demonstrates some of the basic problems in statements such as, "I love you." Once upon a time, a fisherman caught a large pike, and when he pulled the fish out of the water and saw its size, he said, "This is wonderful. I'll take it to the Baron. He loves pike." The poor fish says to himself, "There's some hope for me yet." The fisherman brings the fish to the manor house, and the guard says, "What do you have?" "A pike." "Great," says the guard. "The Baron loves pike." The fish feels that there is some corroboration of the facts. The fisherman enters the palace, and though the fish can hardly breathe, he still has hope. The Baron loves pike. He is brought into the kitchen, and all the cooks exclaim how much the Baron loves pike. The fish is placed on a table, and the Baron himself enters and gives instructions. cut off the tail, cut off the head, and slit it this way. With his last breath, the fish cries out in great despair. Why did you lie? You don't love Pike, you love yourself.
It's a deep story, no? All right, we use the word love way too freely. I love Pike, I love my sushi, I love you, but one second. Is it about you or is it just about me? Very, very deep. The animal soul doesn't really make real, genuine, authentic relationships with other people. It's simply in its own existence. Or in other words, the animal soul is inherently lonely. Let's go back to those words from the opening verse. It's a lonely creature. I'm just in it for myself.
But it's only lonely if it feels lonely.
Even if it doesn't feel lonely, it's inherently lonely. It's essentially lonely. Why? Because it's never really connecting with another person. Okay. Let's go back over here. The godly soul, the divine soul, is a soul that is actually able to connect with another person because of you. I'm actually in tune with you. I'm actually committed to you. I'm in a relationship with you. The godly soul is a soul that's able to really feel somebody else's joy, feel somebody else's pain, really bring another person into their life, transcend its own ego and say, I'm in a real relationship with you. There's a beautiful Jewish teaching, a Hasidic teaching, that captures the beauty of this idea. Text 7, where are we holding over here? Alex, right? You didn't read it yet. Text 7, page 14. This is a little quote from the second Rebbe of Chabad, Rabbi Dov Ber of Lubavitch. All right.
Two people discuss spiritual growth, study Torah together. There are two godly souls in each naturals.
There's an idea that two people could come together, and when they come together, there's two divine souls and one animal soul, which doesn't really make a lot of sense. Two people, both of these people have two divine souls. Both of these people have two animal souls. So if they're coming down together, they're going to talk with each other. How many souls do you have here? All right, you should have 4. 1 second. But this teaching says, no, only 3 souls here. 2 godly, 1 animal. How does that make sense? And the answer is very, very profound based on what we just said. When 2 friends come together, they're real friends. My godly soul is actually interested in you. If you're going through a rough time and I'm a real friend and we're going to talk about it, my godly soul is not apathetic to you. It's not indifferent to you. It will become invested with you. It's going to join forces, so to speak, with your godly soul. Let's do it together, which is the power of real good friends, of loyal people, and not just friends, but for our children, to really be present for them. My animal soul, your animal soul is going through a problem. Your animal soul is going through a struggle. You talk to me about it. Does my animal soul care? No. It stays out of the conversation. I mean, if it's interesting, I'll listen in. But if it's boring, please, go talk to somebody else, please. The animal souls, let's put this up over here, essentially stay to themselves. I care about me. I like eating sushi. You eating sushi doesn't get me excited. I don't feel good for you, right? Maybe it will remind me how much I like sushi, so I'll go buy it for myself. But I'm not like, wow, you're having a time. My heart is bursting for you. Animal soul doesn't talk that way. It could fake it, but for it to really feel the joy, the pain, the experience of another, animal soul, I care for myself. You have this problem, good. You don't have it, good for you. Whatever you want, right? Like they say, what's the difference between apathy and indifference? I don't know and I don't care. Yeah. That's it. But the godly soul, a divine soul, 2 people coming together, they want to connect, they want to grow together. The godly soul is actually connecting, is in tune with another person. This is the power. So dear friends, what are we seeing over here? When we say that we are in relationships and that we have people in our lives on any of those 4 levels of relationships, whether it's a very intimate relationship, our immediate family, our friends, we have to always ask ourselves, I'm in a relationship. What type of relationship? Is it an animal soul relationship where it's really ultimately all about myself? And I'm really actually not really in a relationship with the other person. I'm just in a relationship with myself. Or is this a relationship where I have my godly soul present? And Jewish spirituality teaches us the only way we can make relationships which are real and genuine and we're present and we're really deeply connected in a real way is only if we have our godly soul in the picture. This is the big idea we're going to be exploring in the class. 1 second, Marshall. And I want to wrap it up over here. Now let's go back to what Hillel said. What did Hillel say? If you could learn how to truly see another human being as you see yourself, you'll treat another human being the way you want to be treated. You'll respect them the way you want to be respected. You'll see them the way you see them, which means you're really in touch with another person. If you could get to that, you've just touched the very core of Judaism. Because what's the core of Judaism? The core of Judaism is for every single person, for every single Jew, to get in touch with their soul. In a certain way, if you want to say, the essence of every single part of Judaism is to lift up the spiritual over the material, soul over body, spirit over matter. Lift up the spirituality and let it shine. Hillel tells him, if you could really learn how to relate to another person, that means you're in touch with your soul. And that is the core of Judaism. Once you have that, you have the master key. Okay, you have a lot to learn, but you got the essence, you got the core of it. Now we could start learning what mitzvahs are, but every mitzvah is this. If you don't know how to relate to somebody, that means you're essentially locked out of the very core of Judaism. You don't understand what it means to have a soul. You're not experiencing your soul. What's the proof? You don't know how to relate to another person in a real way. Of course you can have relationships. The animal soul also has relationships. But in that real way where you deeply connect with another person in a real way, even a stranger, by the way, there's a way to talk to somebody. There's a way an animal soul talks to a stranger. There's a way the godly soul speaks to a stranger. It's a whole different approach. If you could learn that, says Hill, you got the core. Let's read text 9, Max. Page 16, in your books, text 9 from the Tanya. I helped work on this course. So I love the Tanya. I couldn't help it. The whole first class had to be based on the Tanya. Okay, go for it, Max. Text 9.
This is what Hillel the elder meant when he stated regarding the mitzvah to love your fellow. This is the entire Torah. The rest is commentary, etc. For the foundation and roots of the entire Torah is to prioritize and raise the divine soul over the body.
If you look at Judaism, all of Judaism is there to expose the soul of a person, the soul of every single experience, the soul of the universe. From a spiritual perspective, this is the entirety of Judaism. And the gauge to know if we are in touch with that is the way we relate to another person. If we could truly relate to another person, that is an indicator to us that we're in touch with our soul. If not, it means we're really out of touch with the whole essence of Judaism. We're not in touch with our soul. And this is the effort. We all know we have a soul. Our soul can't be something we just have. Somewhere in my basement in a box, I think somewhere I could find my soul, right? That's not the what, you know. Having a soul means you have it. It's active. It's a presence in your life. It's something you're operating with it. That's what it means. That's what it means to be a Jew. When you see relationships in this life, we have two major, well, I'll call them aha moments, paradigm shifts, totally brand new ways of how we see relationships. Let me share them with you. Okay, this is the answer. Animal soul is self-focused. The divine soul can truly relate to others. And this is what Hillel was saying. Hillel was saying if you could really be in touch with your soul, that's Judaism. This is the answer, which is very interesting. Until the emergence of and the prevalence of the teachings of Hasidus, Jewish spirituality, Hillel's statement was never understood, which is an amazing thing if you just look at the history of Jewish teachings. One of the most famous teachings in the Talmud, nobody can understand it. You know, Rashi, the commentary on the Talmud, he struggles with this piece of Hillel. But the Tanya really gives the answer to this from the perspective of Jewish spirituality. That's all of Torah. All of Judaism is prioritize the divine soul. Yes, Marshall?
So is this the concept behind Rabbi Manas Friedman in several of his talks? He says it's not appropriate to say to someone, I love you. Starting with I means it's about me, he says you should say, you, I love.
Interesting. I don't know. I guess so. That's probably what he's saying. Yeah. Don't make it about yourself. Don't make it about yourself. Make it about the other. That's interesting. Yeah. I guess it's based on this. I'm not sure. But yeah, that sounds right. That sounds right. Two paradigm shifts here. You ever heard the advice that in a relationship you should just be yourself? Right? You ever heard that before? It's pretty good advice. Why? You don't want to be not yourself in a relationship, right? That's going to come back to haunt you. It's going to come back to bite you. Okay. So be yourself. You know what the only problem is? Now that we have a more sophisticated understanding of who we are, what our self is, I don't know, is that so healthy to be yourself? The question is, one second, which self? Our default setting is our animal soul. We don't want our relationships to be only on animal soul wavelength. Because what's the animal soul all about? The animal soul, if the animal soul is the one in the driver's seat of your relationships, you know what your relationships are going to look like? It's not going to be real deep relationships. These are not the relationships the Torah is telling us a man shouldn't be alone, a human shouldn't be alone. Go find relationships. It's not talking about animal soul relationships. What are animal soul relationships? Number one, it is inherently selfish. Now, selfish not in a bad way. I don't mean in a bad way. They are people who are friends for decades. I'm not saying that every single animal soul relationship is destined to doom. It's a subtle idea, but it's ultimately self-serving. I'm relating to you only in as much as I care about myself. I don't care about you. I don't care about you eating sushi. Which means if you went out for sushi without me, not in a bad way, not like you. You told me, I went out for sushi last night. What do I feel about you?
Convinced.
Not even obvious. I don't care. I don't care. Meaning, it was your sushi. What does that do with me? The animal soul is not really about you. It's me, and you're in my life only in as much as it serves my good purposes. So, a relationship where you're just being your natural self is actually not the best thing. Number one, it's inherently selfish. Number two, it's lacking real connection. You're not really connected with the other person, which means this is a very, very limited. It's a superficial relationship. There's a real max that you could go with this type of relationship. And the biggest risk is that ultimately, the animal soul is not loyal to its relationships because it's never about you, it's about me. And therefore, what does the animal soul do whenever it feels not interested in the relationship anymore? Moves on. Nothing personal again. Nothing personal. I don't mean anything negative about you, just it's not working out for me. Yes?
Real quick. Well, I've been thinking about all this, the soul, the animal, the godly soul. How much does parenting have to do with the development of the godly soul?
A lot. This whole course is going to be unpacking this premise. As we're going to see, the entire way we look at people changes dramatically from the perspective of these two different souls. It's everything changes. So the biggest risk, so we're going to see that over the next 6 weeks, that's exactly what we're going to be seeing. The animal soul is at risk. This relationship is at risk. This is not a real relationship. It's not a genuine relationship. This is not necessarily going to stand the test of time. At some point, the animal soul could get uninterested for a million different reasons. And it will ultimately, the animal soul will hold out for a while, but ultimately just say, I'm moving on. And we'll trample over the relationship. So you want to be yourself in a relationship? Judaism says, no, that's not good enough advice. The real way we have to relate to relationships is to be your best self. Which means, let's switch around those souls. Put the godly soul in the front seat. And that is something which we have to consciously make that effort. To make sure we're in touch with our soul and bring it into our relationships. And what do soul relationships look like? Number one, it's real. It's actually interested, it's actually in tune to somebody else. There's actually, you cherish the other person. And the other person will feel that. It's a very different type of relationship. I'm here for you. I'm not here for you because of me. It's you. Number two, there's actually a real connection. This is not a peripheral connection. I'm really connected, I'm bonded with another person. And again, who is the other person? It could be a spouse, it could be your parents, it could be your children, it could be your siblings, it could be your neighbors, friends. But the godly soul could really make these real connections. And the godly soul, this is not going to be a relationship with we're going to see this a lot more in the later classes. We're going to be talking about disagreements and forgiveness, and we're going to see how these two souls look at all these things from very, very different perspectives. So what does Judaism say? Don't just show up yourself to relationships. You have to be your best self. Only if you bring in your godly soul can you move on from being lonely, alone, and it's not good for a person to be alone, to truly be connected with other people. And we all know, dear friends, that there are people today who have wonderful, lots of relationships, lots of people, but deep down, they're really alone. You can know a lot of people, even a spouse. Two spouses could feel lonely from each other. We live in the same house, we share the same bed, same bedroom. But what? We're not really in tune with each other. We're not really present. Yeah, we talk, we do things together. There's a soul connection that's lacking here. That's what Judaism says. You want to be yourself gesund to hate. You're not helping your relationship. A real relationship is when you bring your best self. And this leads us to the next critical, major point that we're going to be carrying with us into this course. This is still all the course introduction. The hour-and-a-half class didn't start yet. I'm still getting Steve scared over here. Okay. So Steve showed up to my house for Shavuot night learning. There's a Jewish tradition we learn all night. He didn't know it's all night learning. So at midnight, he's like, what's wrong with this rabbi? He doesn't know how to stop. I'll stop on time. You know, there's a rabbi. There was once a dinner. They were honoring an organization's dinner. And rabbis have a problem. They don't know how to speak short. All right? The struggle is real, dear friends. I'm telling you. Okay. So the organizer, the producer of the dinner, warned the rabbi. He says, I'm telling you, there's an 8-minute timer. We're going to be tugging on your pants. And when those 8 minutes are up, we're not having any tolerance for long speeches. So there's a rabbi, they warn him, he's notorious for just going on and on. He says, okay, I got it, no problem. I'll prepare my remarks in advance, everything. He gets up at the podium and he says, the organizers of tonight's dinner asked me in a very firm way that I cannot speak for more than 8 minutes. And I want to respect their wishes. I'm not going to speak for more than 8 minutes. But before I begin speaking, I want to share a few words. Okay. All right, so no, this is still a course introduction. So we have the first idea, the first big idea from Judaism that we are uncovering now that we learned about relationships from a Jewish spiritual perspective. Number one, being yourself is not enough. You have to be your best self, which leads us to the next big idea. Relationships in Judaism is a sacred spiritual experience. Where does relationships fit on Maslow's hierarchy of needs? I don't know, what is it? The top, second to top. Judaism says it doesn't belong on that chart. What's it doing there in that pyramid? Relationship's not a need. You have a need, go eat. You have a need, go to sleep. It's not a need. This is spiritual. This is a spiritual experience, relationships. We're not animals, we're humans. Animals have needs, so they find other animals to interact with. We're humans, we have relationships. This is spiritual. In Judaism, the number one biggest tip for us to help all of our relationships is to be more soul people. It's a little bit counterintuitive. What does being spiritual have to do with my friendships and my marriage and my children? And the answer is everything. Everything. The more spiritual you are, the more soul you are, the more soul is going to show up in your life and in your relationships. And if you don't have soul in your life, well, guess what? It's going to be pretty difficult to bring it out in your relationships. So the number one tip that Judaism would say, as counterintuitive as it is, I know it's cheap for like a rabbi to say it, you want relationship advice? Learn Torah. What? But there's a real big truth to that. See, this is the problem with rabbis. There's a story. Once a rabbi, I'll tell you another rabbi joke. A rabbi was once giving a sermon, high holiday sermon, big deal. The rabbi spent 3 months preparing it. Right when the rabbi starts speaking, the president of the shul dozes off. And like the rabbi was really bothering the rabbi. Like, he says, you're the president of the shul. I'm talking. The president says, Rabbi, I trust you. Don't worry. Go on. It's very deep, right? Rabbis are reliable. Yeah, don't worry, Rabbi, I trust you. You'll do a good job. You'll say the right things. So, of course, a rabbi is going to say, yeah, be spiritual, do another mitzvah. But I want you to appreciate this is not just a cheap idea. Judaism says the more spiritual you are, it really changes the way you are in your relationships, in your social life. It's a very big truth. Because The only way to be your best self is by unlocking your own soul. And that's something that takes a lot of effort. It's not our default setting. We have to bring that out. This is the effort of life. The more spiritual, in other words, there's two ways to look at yourself. You can either see yourself as a body that happens to have a soul. That means your soul is whatever, you happen to have it. I happened to eat pizza yesterday, I happen to have a soul. The real way to look at yourself is, I'm a soul that happens to be in a body. Which one are you? Am I a physical being that happens to have a soul, or am I a spiritual being that happens to have a body? What was that?
Depends on the day of the week.
This is the struggle. We're all working on that. Judaism is all about allowing the soul to come out first and foremost, to be front and center as much as possible. That is at the core of relationships. This was the beauty of what Hillel was saying. Dear friends, now that we understand this model, we have an animal soul, we have a godly soul. They are very different in relationships. I want to tell you something else. This is a very deep idea. Kabbalah speaks about this. Fascinating concept. The way God made this universe is that in nature, whenever two animals, two insects, whatever it is, whenever they mate, it's happening from the back. Meaning, one animal faces the back of another animal. That's how God made the world. Why is that? Jewish law says, and Kabbalah speaks about this, the ideal way for humans to have sexual intimacy is they should face each other. Don't face the back. That's for an animal to do. Humans face each other. Why? It's very deep. When two animals, what did I miss over here? When Mark, come on, you gotta help me out over here. Okay. When two animals are mating, it is totally impersonal. It's not about you. I'm not connecting with you. I'm not bonding with you. I have a need. You're available to help me with my need? Wonderful. It's back to back. I'm not looking at you in the face. It's not about you. It's about me. How does a human relate? How does a human husband and wife relate to each other? Face to face, direct. I'm bonding with you. This isn't just about my own selfish drives and needs. This is the model. Humans need to relate to others face to face, direct. It's spiritual. This is not about animal soul personal needs. Okay. In general, most things, the course is built to be about all relationships. It's not a marriage course. Most people hear the word relationships, marriage. It's not a marriage course, but this is a marriage idea. But it's a truth about all relationships, like we're learning. It has to be driven by spirituality. Now, it happens to be that pretty much all relationships start off with the animal soul, right? You meet somebody, what are you right away thinking? Do I like you? Do I not like you? Are you good company? Are you bad company? Are you boring? I don't know, whatever it is. So it's not that the animal soul being present in the relationship is bad. The bad thing is if the animal soul is the only soul in the relationship. So there's always going to be the animal soul. There's always going to be what we hope to get out of the relationship. And that's not a problem. We can enjoy each other's company. I could enjoy eating sushi with you. That's not a problem. But we need to make sure that our godly soul is also sitting at the table. Then the relationship could be wholesome all around. Okay. We have 20 minutes left. We got the big idea, and this is going to be the big idea we're going to be working with for the next few weeks. Now I want to apply it for the last 20 minutes to empathy. Let's talk about empathy, and then we're going to bring it back to the two souls. What's empathy? Empathy is one of the most important tools for healthy, successful relationships. And we're going to see how the soul model touches directly upon empathy. So what's empathy? Empathy is a big idea in psychology. Before psychology, it was a big idea in the Torah. Where in the Torah is there empathy? So let's go back again to the book of Genesis, to the Torah. One of the most famous characters in the book of Genesis, Joseph, right? Even made it to Broadway. Did Moses make it to Broadway? Okay, he made it to the big screen. But Joseph made it to Broadway. Okay. What's the story of Joseph? Joseph was a lucky boy. His father loved him the most, but he got himself in big trouble, and his life went downhill. He gets his brothers jealous. The brothers throw him into a pit. They tell the father he's dead. They sell him off as a slave. He's taken as a slave down to Egypt. He's sold to Potiphar, one of the members of the aristocracy of ancient Egypt. Potiphar's wife accuses Joseph falsely that he raped her, and he ends up in an Egyptian prison. Okay, that's just, everything's just going from bad to worse. Like they say, what's the difference between a Jewish pessimist and a Jewish optimist? The Jewish pessimist says, things are so bad, it can't get any worse. The Jewish optimist says, oh yes it could. Okay. Joseph's life is just, oh yes it could. You think he's having a bad life? Just hold my beer, it's about to get worse. All right, so he's in prison, he's miserable, horrible. Okay. Torah tells us what happens in the prison. Happens to be, he's in the prison with two of Pharaoh's chamberlains. The cupbearer and the baker. Why were they in prison? I don't know. I think it wasn't a big deal. Pharaohs would send his ministers to prison. Okay. Text, like every single good dictator. Text 10a, page 17. Where are we holding? Remind me your name again. Cliff? Yes. Okay, there we go. Cliff. What was that? No, so we could pass it on. We could pass it on if you would like. Whatever you would like. What's your name? What's your name? Remind me, please. Rachel. Okay, text 10a. No, page 17. There you go.
Each of them, the cupbearer and the baker, were the king of Egypt, who were in prison and in the dungeon, I don't know how to say, dream. Each one had his dream on the same night. And each dream had its own meaning. Joseph came to them in the morning and saw them. They looked disturbed. He questioned Pharaoh's
chamberlains.
Who were with him in the prison of his master's house, asking, "Why are your faces pearly today?" They told him, "We dreamed a dream, and there is no interpreter for it." Joseph responded to them, "Do interpretations not belong to God? Tell them now to me."
Okay, fascinating little story. And by the way, it happened to be that this was the turning point in Joseph's life. But let's just analyze what's going on here. Joseph's in a prison. Is anybody happy in a prison? I assume not. He's like, wow, you guys are not happy today. What's wrong with you? Right? Like, what's going on over here? What does he ask them? Why are your faces poorly today? Why is it poorly today? The whole thing, it's a funny story. The great commentator on the Torah, the Abarbanel. We'll talk about him another day. Fascinating, special rabbi. Let's read what he says over here. Text 10b, Anna, page 18.
Joseph specified today. Joseph understood and expected this individual suffering in
incarceration.
Yes, would be in a mood and look gloom. However, he asked because he noticed the distinction between the specific day and every prior day of their incarceration. I have to
Incarceration. It's a tough one, don't worry.
Sorry, my English second.
It's all good. This was, yeah. There you go. It's a very weird thing. Number one, Joseph's got his own problems to deal with. He's got his own depression. He's got his own anxiety. He's got his own trauma. Right? Most people, when they're dealing with their own problems, they're not looking out for other people's problems. You're in a bad mood, please. I've got my own issues. Right? That's usually human nature. What's Joseph doing over here? He's got his own problems. His life is miserable. Has the worst life possible. And he's busy looking at other people. He's taking notice. And he notices that these two people, they were in a bad mood yesterday, but today it's a few degrees worse. And he brings it up. I understand. I see something is on your heart. Something's bothering you. Today you look extra bad. Share it with me.
He's using his godly soul.
This is called empathy. This is the classic example of empathy. What's empathy? There's two types of empathy. We're going to get back to Joseph in a second. But let's read this text from Modern Psychology from Brene Brown. You're familiar, Lisa? Brene Brown, yeah? All right. She's a little bit of a big macher. Text 11, she'll explain to us a little bit about two types of empathy. Elke, text 11, page 19.
Empathy, the most powerful tool of compassion, is an emotional skill set that allows us to understand what someone is experiencing and to reflect back that understanding. Most researchers agree that there are at least two elements to empathy: cognitive empathy and affective empathy. Cognitive empathy, sometimes called perspective taking or mentalizing, is the ability to recognize and understand another person's emotions. Affective empathy, often called experience sharing, is one's own emotional attunement with another person's experience.
Two types of empathy. First one, so let's focus now just on cognitive. Cognitive empathy is the idea that we use our mind to understand, to perceive, and to be in tune, and to understand what somebody else is going through. Somebody else is going through a difficult time, don't be indifferent. Don't miss it. Empathy is that you notice it. Somebody in your family is going through a hard time. You notice it. You're not the person who dismisses it. You're not the person who ignores it. You understand it, and you share with them. I see you're going through something. I want to understand what you're going through. The amazing thing is, and studies show this, that usually to show empathy, you need to be in a very good place. If you're very happy and you're very comfortable, it's a little bit easier to see somebody else's pain. What happens when we're in a bad mood? What happens when I've got my own sorrows going on? People become very, very closed into themselves. I don't have time for anybody else's problems. I've got my own problems. Here, what's Joseph doing? He's got his own problems to the high heavens, and he's being unbelievably empathetic. The Rebbe talks about the story and brings out this point over here. And this goes back to what Daniel just said. So, Lauren, let's read text 12, page 20 from the Rebbe, to bring this point home.
Joseph had been made to suffer the greatest injustices. He was sold as a slave in Egypt and then jailed without guilt. One might have expected him to be embittered, angry at the world. Nevertheless, when he noticed that Pharaoh's chief cupbearer and baker looked unusually distraught, he approached them and inquired, "Why are your faces poorly today?"
Keep on going.
Joseph descended from Abraham, regarding whom God proclaimed that he would command his children and his household after him to keep God's ways by doing righteousness and justice. Consequently, upon seeing one of God's creatures in a mood quite the contrary of joyful, after all, the mere recognition that a person is a creation of the Holy One should be sufficient cause for joy. Joseph took the fact that the matter had caught his attention as evidence that the matter was relevant to him. Therefore, he immediately sought to be of assistance.
Joseph got his values from Abraham. Life is not just about me. We're here for others. He understands that God puts us in positions because we're there to help. He had a soul attitude. Joseph was spiritual. He was able to transcend that own ego and his own wallowing in his own misery. He was able to be empathetic. He was able to connect with other people. This model of Joseph's empathy is something that our sages teach us we need to adopt. We need to learn how to be empathetic people. Let's read this next text. Randy, text 13 from our sages, from the Midrash.
Understanding the needy. Praise be one who understands those who are in need. What does understand mean in this context? It refers to one who carefully considers and reflects on a strategy to sustain the person in need. For example, when a wealthy person faces a drastic downturn, the understanding benefactor visits the formerly wealthy person and says, "I heard that inheritance would be coming your way in such location, that so-and-so owes you money. If you wish, accept this sum from me, and when that inheritance comes to you, or when that debtor repays the debt, you can pay me back." This person understands those who are in need.
Very powerful idea. You could be charitable. You could even be compassionate, but you're not being empathetic, which means you're helping the needy. But what does the psalm say over here? But you don't understand the needy. So it gives us an example. There are a million of examples of this. Somebody who's generally has the potential of, what's the word I'm looking for? No, he's well known that he's an affluent person. Reputation. He's an affluent person. Okay. But he hits very hard times. So if you want to be compassionate, you'll say, "Oh, I want to give you charity." I'll give you $500. I'm going to help you out. You're helping the needy. But are you understanding this person? He doesn't want to take charity. So it's demeaning for him. It's uncomfortable for him. You're talking the wrong language. What's understanding? You have to find a more clever way that's more understanding of what he's going through. You don't tell him I want to give you charity. Say, the stocks are doing good. I know the stocks you're invested in, it's about to go up. You're about to do good. I'll lend you money. Pay me back whatever you want. It's a much more beautiful way of saying it. You don't make him feel bad. You're being more sensitive to him. He feels better about himself. He doesn't. That's called being empathetic. You're understanding the other person. That's what Joseph had. He wasn't just saying, oh, you need help, I'll help you. He was using his mind to be in tune to other people. That's empathetic. That's what it means to be empathy. And that is critical for relationships. That's cognitive empathy. To perceive how others are thinking and feeling, to perceive it, and that's how you make real connection.
And that's due unto others.
And that's do unto others. You're feeling something. You want somebody else to understand you. Be that person. Work on understanding the people. That's the animal soul says, I don't even understand you. I want to go out for sushi. So then we could eat sushi together. Right? Understand? The animal soul is not looking out for other people. He's not trying to understand. He's not trying to put himself into other people's shoes. This is a soul thing. Okay. Then there's another form of empathy, which is called affective empathy or emotional empathy. Cognitive empathy is that you understand the other person. Affective, emotional empathy is that you feel the other person. Feel the other person. Let's read these next two texts over here. Faith, Karen? Karen, okay, thank you. Usually takes me 3 times. Okay, Karen, very, very good. Text 14a, page 23 from the Talmud.
2 methods for anxiety. Rabbis Ami and Asi each suggested a method for handling anxiety. One said, cast it from the mind. The other said, speak it over with others.
All right, 2 ways to get rid of anxiety. One is cast it away from your mind. Do we like that piece of advice, by the way? Sometimes. That's not for today. We did a whole class on that. More than once. Okay. But now let's focus on the second one. Speak it over with others. What do you mean speak it over with others? Just go to the coffee shop and find somebody to... Let me pour out my heart to you. No, please don't. Right? Well, let me speak it over with others. So Karen, let's read the next text as well. Text 14b.
Others qualified. They are others only in the bodily sense. However, they are wholly united with you, for they feel your reality.
We don't mean others who are strangers. Others, yes, they're others in body. But you should have, what helps with anxiety? When you speak it with somebody who feels you. They feel your reality. When you speak to them, they're not sitting there from a distance. They're not sitting in the ivory tower. Can we be that person for the people in our lives? That when they're going through something, they could speak to us. And it's something that we could understand them. We could feel them. That's the gift of relationships. Could we be that person? Okay. I want to show you a little video, and then I'm going to wrap the class. It's a good video. I want to show it to you because it's a good video, and it really brings out the idea of what specifically is empathy, especially against sympathy. People confuse the two. Okay, very good. Yeah, let's do it.
Brené Brown is an American professor and social worker, a best-selling author, and a podcast host. In a relatable and engaging style, she clarifies the distinction between sympathy and empathy and illustrates the idea of an empathetic person putting themselves in the same emotional space as someone who is suffering.
So what is empathy, and why is it very different than sympathy? Empathy fuels connection. Sympathy drives disconnection. Empathy, it's very interesting. Teresa Wiseman is a nursing scholar who studied professions, very diverse professions where empathy is relevant, and came up with 4 qualities of empathy. Perspective taking, the ability to take the perspective of another person or recognize their perspective as their truth. Staying out of judgment, not easy when you enjoy it as much as most of us do. Recognizing emotion in other people and then communicating that. Empathy is feeling with people. And to me, I always think of empathy as this kind of sacred space when someone's kind of in a deep hole and they shout out from the bottom and they say, I'm stuck, it's dark, I'm overwhelmed. And then we look and we say, hey, you climb down. I know what it's like down here. And you're not alone. Sympathy is, ooh, it's bad, no. You want a sandwich? Empathy is a choice, and it's a vulnerable choice, because in order to connect with you, I have to connect with something in myself that knows that feeling. Rarely, if ever, does an empathic response begin with "at least." And we do it all the time. Because you know what? Someone just shared something with us that's incredibly painful, and we're trying to silver lining it. I don't think that's a verb, but I'm using it as one. We're trying to put the silver lining around it. So, I had a miscarriage. Oh, at least you know you can get pregnant. I think my marriage is falling apart. At least you have a marriage. John's getting kicked out of school. At least Sarah is an A student. But one of the things we do sometimes in the face of very difficult conversations is we try to make things better. If I share something with you that's very difficult, I'd rather you say, I don't even know what to say right now, I'm just so glad you told me. Because the truth is, rarely can a response make something better. What makes something better is connection.
That's very powerful. That's what real connection is. Now, dear friends, now that we understand who we are deep inside, what ourselves are, we have an animal soul, we have a godly soul. Could the animal soul be empathetic? It could be, but it's terribly unnatural. You're going through something? I'm sorry. I got my own life to worry about. The animal soul is naturally apathetic. I don't care about you. You're eating sushi, good for you. Oh, you want to eat sushi? I'm not in your life. I've got my own life to live. I'm thinking about my own life. That is the animal soul. The animal soul is naturally apathetic, looking away, not connected with the other one. Now, the animal soul could be apathetic, but again, it's very unnatural. Studies show that people become empathetic. People become empathetic when they understand that there is payback. Like studies show that men become a lot more empathetic all of a sudden once they enter into a romantic relationship. Why? Because the man realizes that it's good for business, right? That's what turns on a lady when you're empathetic. So all of a sudden, Mr. Apathetic, cold guy, all of a sudden is all warm, empathetic. That's not called real empathy. Yeah, okay, I guess it's better than nothing. Which soul is really capable of empathy, of connection? It's the godly soul. It is naturally empathetic. What was that? The godly soul really could understand. It's natural for it to connect with another person. So, dear friends, the key big idea of tonight's class for us to build our relationships, not to have a little tip here and a tip there. What do we say in this case? What shouldn't I say in that case? That's not the point. Those are cheap. To really drive our relationships, to make us people who are less alone and more deeply connected. And we all need all of that. And even if we have amazing relationships, we need to do it better. We need to bring our soul into our relationships. We need to uncover that spirituality inside of us and bring that into our relationships. And to hopefully try to be more empathetic when we do that. I'm sure it's going to be a lot easier. And dear friends, we're out of time. That's all we got for tonight. I want to thank you all for joining. This was amazing. Thank you to the lessons. We're on a roll here. We got an amazing course going. Next week, same time, same place, the art of listening. Let's go deeper. Let's continue on.